Hi, this is Peter Gould, co-creator and executive producer.
This is Tom Schnauz, writer and director of this episode.
Melissa Bernstein, one of the producers of this episode.
Diane Mercer, one of the producers.
Marshall Adams, I'm the cinematographer on the show.
Hey, it's Cheri Montesanto, makeup and makeup effects.
Hey, speaking of makeup effects, Cheri, is Bob really sunburned here?
No, he isn't. That's all makeup. Every single bit of it. Because he had a lot of sunscreen on under all that makeup, believe ye.
Is it hard to have makeup on top of sunscreen?
Not in this day and age. The makeup goes over pretty well, but because we were working in extreme conditions and it was so incredibly hot, the makeup I had to put on, Bob and Jonathan for that matter, had to be something that would not come off with sweat. So we made him super suntan first, and then we made him sunburned on top of that. And then to add the consistent fake sweat, we put vitamin E over that. So it all had to hold up between real heat and the elements of the desert.
How'd you do this, Tom?
What a simple question. Well, we were breaking the story, and we had broken it without the split screen. We were trying to get Jimmy and Mike out of the desert, and then it hit us as we needed to know what was going on in Kim's head. What was her reaction to Jimmy being gone so long? And we decided to go back and do the split screen, and the crew busted their ass and did. It's twice the work. You're getting two images for the price of one here, and we have to fill the screen, so it just takes twice as long. And luckily, Marshall and everybody just kicked ass on this. We woke up at the butt crack of before dawn to get that opening shot of the sun and the phone rising into it like the monolith from 2001, and it was like Marshall was out there figuring out the math of what time exactly to get this shot and where in the sky the sun would be.
And we're obviously revisiting this device from Deborah Chow's episode last season, which we got to dial in some of the approaches, which is nice.
It's remarkable. It always seems too short. I always want more. I love it so much. To me, this is one of the most romantic teasers, maybe the most romantic teaser we ever had, and it's appropriate. It comes from Tom Schnauz, who has a heart as big as all outdoors.
Mr. Romance is what they call me.
That's right. That's what we do.
I gotta remember that.
This is in the gas station that was across from the casino where the crew was staying for episode 508. So everybody got pretty familiar with this gas station and the delicious burgers that are inside of it.
And the truck that went by is Morrissey Freight, and John Morrissey's one of our Sony executives. So I hope he enjoyed that.
This is our homage to Pulp Fiction here, and this is one of the scenes that we really talked long and hard about possibly cutting from the episode because we had a lot to do. And we did this on the day we shot all of our Tahajali stuff, which the crew had become very good at working on 508, having been out there for 3 to 4 months, I think, Marshall.
Sounds about right.
And I had a half a day in Tahajali, and then we scrambled and got to this gas station and picked up all these shots before the sun went down.
Yeah, we were moving really well that day. I remember it was a lot of fun. I was concerned right from the beginning, but you were all over it, man.
Tom is a remarkably organized director. He storyboards. I know he won't say this. He storyboards virtually. I think. Do you storyboard every single shot, or just almost every single shot?
Just about everything, except for if something is very simple. I don't put the pen to paper. But if there's a lot of sequences, I mean, especially the teaser sequence where you have the sun on one side and I wanted light streaming in through the window on the other, so that things kind of matched up, and the snake and the fish, etc. That stuff definitely gets drawn. But even this, what you're looking at, I drew shots for this driving sequence, just to have it in my head, and because I'm so bad at keeping screen direction organized in my head that I need a reference to look at so that I know if Jimmy's looking left one shot, I want to have Mike or whoever he's talking to looking right on the other. Just helps me keep it organized.
I just want to mention there was a credit that just went by. Joey Liu co-edited this episode, and Joey was Melissa. I believe he was your assistant originally on Breaking Bad. Is that right?
He was. He was Michelle McLaren's assistant and Melissa's assistant. I believe at the same time. Yeah.
That's right. And then Joey was my assistant, and then he left. We were very sad because he wanted to be an editor, and now he's an editor, and he's back on the show. And I'm so excited for him.
7 million. Your client has $7 million.
And this location is familiar to Melissa Bernstein because this is where Jimmy and Kim went to get their marriage license, and the tremendous production designer Mark Freeborn redesigned that room and created this whole new space, this bail room, which is just awesome. Just it's amazing what he can do.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole episode. It's like, because Bob is so good, and all of these guest cast are so good.
Yeah, all the Meredith Miniette, who plays the bond clerk. We were looking for someone who could just deliver that great deadpan.
She's great.
$7 million.
Yeah. Oh, she's so good. And the DA Gina, she's wonderful as well. She's so good.
Saida.
Yes, that's right. She's fantastic. And that line, people always ask the writers what was improv and what was written. Well, 99.9% of this episode was written, but Bob improvised that "I'm fine" line, which was very
oh god, it's so funny.
Very funny.
So good.
He wanted to try it. We did it, and it kept it in the cut. And here we are outside MDC, and this is one of those days where you're just we were cooking with gas all day long, and then we get here, and we have to deal with Albuquerque lightning. And we had a couple of shutdowns where, for crew safety, you have to everybody get inside and get all the crew and equipment safe. You just sit there for half an hour, and then you hear, there's another lightning strike. We have to extend the wait time. So when we do come to shoot this stuff, we are just running around like crazy. And Marshall, just again having Marshall Adams as your DP just saves your butt as a director so many times, because we're just scrambling to get this done in the amount of time we're allotted.
Yeah, you two guys. Yeah, if I remember correctly, we lost probably close to an hour and a half that day or more. It was a tough day.
That was bad. That was probably my worst day or night as a director, where you're just helpless. You just can't. You want to get stuff done. You're like, all these shots I want to do that I'm afraid we're not going to get. And then you have Tony Dalton and Bob Odenkirk, and they come out and they nail the dialogue, and the lighting looks great. And, the whole crew moving camera and equipment around, and it's just having a great crew is just my God, I can't even say how much that is worth to a director.
And a highly prepared cast that's just on it, because Bob and Tony are always great, but they always come ready to go, both of them.
I remember this was the first time that I felt like Tony's just gave me the chills. He was just so scary in this scene.
And I love his delivery here about your wife. Yeah, he's a looker. He was so good. This is the last shot we got of the night. This is like the clock was ticking down. It was like, let's get this shot before we have to wrap it up. And that was close. So I don't know what we would have done. We would have been back there another night to get that shot, I guess.
That whole beat is a great example of why we can't plan too far ahead, because we literally didn't know that Kim was going to go visit Lalo until we were, probably midway through breaking the previous episode. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Kim has met Lalo changes everything.
Wow, yeah.
After this episode.
Here's the more great makeup from Cheri.
Yeah, I feel like we did like 8 different tests of those straps, Cheri.
We did a lot of testing on the straps, and then we finally ended up using the real strap as a template for it. But then we had to be really careful because he was in and out of the water, which is always super tricky because usually makeup comes off with water. So we did a lot of diligent testing and then everyone's input of what they liked the best. And I think it worked out really well. I was really proud of that.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It looks amazing, Cheri. It's so real. It just looks like it hurts so bad.
Even Bob said, well, when we got through with it, he goes, wow, I actually feel like I'm injured right now. So that's always a good compliment.
Yeah.
The best.
Can't believe you walked through the desert alone for 36 hours. I can't even fathom it. That's right.
This set, we've had since season 2. When did we? I can't remember when you designed this stage, but to get this shot you're looking at here, where we're looking at Kim across the bathtub, was harder to get than it looks because the set was built without that back wall designed to come out, and those tiles, we didn't have replacement tiles, so Mark Freeborn and his crew had to carefully remove that wall without damaging any of the tiles and be able to put it back in when we were done. So it took a lot longer than you would imagine to get a shot like this, because they had to, days in advance, had to go in there and carefully cut all the tiles out of that corner and remove that back wall, which wasn't designed to be like that.
I also have to say that Rhea was so great in being so careful with the makeup because she knew there was some limitations, and she was just so great, really being careful but not letting it affect her performance.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the actors are just wonderful on this show. I can't even say enough about that.
I mean, maybe it even enhanced her performance in some way, because she's so tender. There's this moment I love that she does that was not scripted, and I didn't ask her to do it, where she coming up where she adjusts Bob's hair. She just reaches and carefully moves it over, and she did that every take, and I just loved it every time she did it.
It's great.
Okay. I won't see Lalo again.
And this is, just shooting in a bathtub.
Oh, yeah.
I do not recommend shooting in a bathtub because you have to constantly drain the tub and warm the water, and it was very, very time consuming. It's another one of those days on set where you're like, oh my God, are we ever going to get this scene done? Because it just, so many things took longer than you imagine when you script it.
I also love his tan lines.
I have a question for Marshall, because you have shot in this set. We have shot in Kim's condo far more than I ever expected to when we started this show. How is it that you approach it every time we come into it? Somehow it feels a little bit different. The look of it changes according to the scene. What are you thinking about when you come back to a set that you've shot so many times before?
Well, I mean, we'd never really established kind of what the light was. I don't think over the tub necessarily. So, I mean, the big thing was making sure that Rhea looked good, and making sure that she has a nice light with a top light like that, which sometimes can not be the most flattering thing in the world. So that was it. We just went really big and soft, but it's always tricky to try to keep that off the walls too. So, but yeah, I mean, we've established a lot of the practicals in there, I think. So it always felt to me like we could get away with, as long as they were that kind of tungsten-y color or warm color, that we could get away with just about anything we wanted to do in there lighting-wise.
Well, it's remarkable to me because, and it is a fine set, but walking into it with the work lights on, it just feels like a totally different place. It does not have the magic that it gets when you and your crew are working on it. I can't tell. I almost wish the viewers could see what the set looks like just with flat lighting, because it's completely different. It just doesn't have the magic.
Yeah, well, thankfully, otherwise I'd be out of work, I think.
You bring the magic.
For that shot through the mug with the bullet hole, we mounted the mug right to the camera so that the lens was shooting through the holes. And I know we did, while we were shooting, the later discussion between Jimmy and Mike out in the car, Marshall set up some tests. We set up some different lenses and figured out which one would be the best. I don't remember what lens we ended up using, but it
was, I can't remember the brand, but it's that periscope that you can use. That we used the borescope. We didn't use the prism on that, but similar thing than we used in your episode too, Peter. So yeah, I love that lens, and we used it a bunch. It's just, there's nothing like being able to get that close focus. I mean, we were half an inch away from the front of that mug.
Here we are on stage. This is Gus's office on the stages of Q Studio.
By who?
Now, this was an adventure, this golf setup.
Okay.
Yeah, Diane, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this was like a multi-pronged attack to get this done, because we couldn't really afford to license a real golf game, and we couldn't. I don't even think we could actually get one into the set. I'm trying to remember exactly what the specifics were for that set, but so we put all the pieces together. We had the screen on the set for Bolsa to hit the ball, and then we did provide playback. So this is basically playback with
video projection.
With video projection, and then we designed the graphics on top of that, and had to figure out how far we thought he was hitting the ball, and we went through many iterations of this before
Javier, who plays Juan Bolsa, is not a golfer, really. And that opening shot you see is a golf club on a spring rig where it was built so that you push a button, the golf club comes swinging through frame and hits the golf ball. Because the camera lens is very close to the ball. If we had somebody swinging it, we didn't want them to smash the cameras into pieces.
Someone we need to worry about?
He was trying to protect his own business.
And we shot that at the Hotel Andalus right before we went and shot the scene outside MDC where Lalo and Jimmy are talking. So it was a very busy day.
Mm.
So wait, so you're saying that Juan Bolsa lives in the Hotel Andalus?
Yes, he's not
Lucky
in Mexico.
guy.
He's not in Mexico at all. He's actually just in Albuquerque.
Which is the same lobby we used for 510.
That's true. It's a beautiful old hotel. I think it was actually Conrad Hilton's first hotel, I believe.
That's right.
There's actually in that little library, there's a great letter about him and all of the causes that he championed that I became very fond of. If you're ever there, go in and check it out in the library.
Tom, I have to ask you, wasn't there one shot here that you picked up at another location?
We did. In our rush to get things done, when Mike was sitting at the desk, sitting down at the desk with Gus, I never got a wider shot over Gus of Mike sitting there. So all I had was a close-up of Mike. So when we were in the editing room, every time we cut to Mike, it was just this sort of floating head, and it was just weirdly, it just felt strange in the editing room because you just kept cutting to this head against black. And so when we were doing pickups at the end of the season, we set this up on, we set the Gus office up on stage and picked up an over the shoulder from Gus to Mike. One of the many pickups we did at the end of this season for different episodes.
And you directed most of the pickups for the season, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. And there's a line in that scene you just watched where Mike says fear is not a great motivator, and I completely forgot. I don't know if anybody in the office remembered that in Breaking Bad, Gus says almost the same exact thing to Mike.
Oh,
I don't believe fear to be.
I thought we discussed that, and this is where Gus got it from. That's I always thought that's what I thought. I thought Gus was actually weirdly quoting Mike there.
Luckily it works out that way because I think when I wrote it, I just it was just one of those lines that just seeps into your memory of a thing that seems good to say, and I was like, oh shit, Gus said this before. So yeah, luckily it's still in Breaking Bad. And
on that last scene, I think we owe a little, a big apology and thank you to Katrina Tannenbaum and Poppy Lou, because there was more to their scene, and we just ended up cutting it for time. And they're both wonderful actresses. They're great.
Yeah, that's one of those things you just hate to do, but we have time restrictions on the episode. It went very long, and it was a 3-minute scene, and they did great, and the crew did great. And, it was a Friday night. It's like you hate working the crew on a Friday night at night, and then the scene doesn't even make it into the episode. It's like, I wish we were better at planning these things out and figuring out what was needed and what wasn't. But it was just,
it doesn't happen that often.
You never really know until you get the editor. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but it's still, the actors work very hard, and you hate to lose a scene like this. But coming up here, we have a Marshall Adams, designed this great rig to get these shots coming up. Marshall, you want to talk about this double-headed rig?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, that was your idea. I loved it. It was very cool. But we took both cameras, put them side by side on the same head. They built a rig so that they could mount side by side and still operate. And then we focused them almost like a 3D camera, so they both had the exact same size frame. And boy, I just loved the way that cut together. So cool.
There's these very quick cuts between the two cameras where the Bob's image in the foreground is almost exactly the same, but the background shifts radically. And that was sort of a thing I stole from our editor from Breaking Bad, Kelly Dixon. There's a scene in Breaking Bad where it's Peter and Jenny Hutchison's episode, Salute, where Jesse is shooting back at one of Donaladio's men, and to create the chaos going on in Jesse's head, she flipped the image and cut back and forth between those flipped images. Well, this is just a different version of that, where you're cutting back and forth between these very almost identical camera shots, but something's different about them, and it happens so fast, and it just hopefully creates the post-traumatic stress disorder that Jimmy's going through here. And we just saw Jimmy's feet, and Cheri, those are really Bob's feet, right? Those, no makeup applied.
Yep, those are Bob's feet, and this was our biggest challenge of the episode, makeup-wise. But I have to say, I love you guys because you always challenge me, so I never get bored doing Better Call Saul for sure. But it worked out. But oh my God, it was so nerve-wracking because every time his feet came out, they needed to be patted off, and I was just holding my breath, making sure that he didn't put his feet in and come out with no injuries.
And that is another influence on me for that phone shot. Was there's a shot in The Exorcist where Father Merrin is focused on. I can't remember what he's focused on, but it's one of the scariest shots in the whole film for me. That involves no devil. It's just the phone rings, and he looks over his shoulder, and I kind of tried to do a similar thing in that shot, shooting over the phone to Bob's jump there.
Just wait 45 minutes. I can be there.
And this is a great scene for Ray too. I mean, Bob and Ray constantly knock it out of the park. Because Ray, Kim knows a secret here, and she's trying to be very delicate. She could confront him and just say, "I know you're lying, and just tell me what the hell's going on. I know there's your mug with a bullet hole. I saw it. I found it." But she's aware that he's gone through some kind of traumatic event to his body and his psyche, and she's trying to be very delicate here and let him tell it in the time that is comfortable for him. So I just love Ray in the scene.
I want you to know that I'm here for you.
It's interesting because I think some of the hardest scenes for these guys are when they're hiding things for each other. Kim and Jimmy, those are difficult moments for Bob and Ray because the two of them, I think they both feel so connected to their own characters, and Jimmy and Kim read each other very, very well. So it's there's a beautiful dance going on here beneath the words, and it's remarkably written, directed, and acted, and shot and made up and everything, produced.
I was out of water, and in order to survive, I had to drink pee.
I have to ask, just since there was a silence there, I have to ask, was that snake in the teaser? Was that a real snake or was that a pretend snake? Is that a Hollywood snake?
That was an actor by the name of Jonathan Banks. Oh, you're talking about the actual snake. I'm sorry. That was a snake. His name was Legs, we were told, and we surrounded him with snake wranglers, and we were told that if the snake was going to try to get away, he was going to go uphill, which is exactly where the actors were. So I was damn nervous that the snake was going to make a run for it. But luckily, the snake was very chill on the day and played along nicely.
We had to build it on a crane and a remote camera, so there wasn't anybody operating, so we could operate it remotely just in case, because we wanted the camera so close to the snake.
Great. Well,
And this is Austin Boyce playing Marcy, who is a terrific young actress. And talking to her on one of the earlier episodes, I found out that she's been on virtually every show on AMC. So she's good, and everybody knows it.
first letter is for.
And here we are at Schweikert and Coakley, and just want to highlight this very stale, boring work that Kim has to go through. Just changing the size of an awning for a bank drive-through, in comparison to the trauma she had gone through missing Jimmy and realizing what's important in her life and what's not. And you're seeing her all of her Mesa Verde awards, which really mean nothing to her, and then seeing one of her clients, one of her PD clients, who had written her a thank you letter, and just it's again, Ray Seehorn pulls it off incredibly, just making it feel real that she would up and leave this almost perfect job that Kim Wexler had fought so hard to get.
So can you call his assistant and get some intel?
And we got the great Dennis Boutsikaris here.
They told me you were out sick today.
Such a pleasure to work with him. He's so what a professional. This guy is great.
I love this character. I just love this character, from how he was introduced initially to where he came to be. When you first meet him, you think he's just this total sleazy lawyer, and he turns out to be a really good guy and a good boss. And it's so, I love that you give these characters that aren't even, really central to the story, you give them so much dimension.
Well, it happens very organically, because I think when we first introduced him, I think we thought maybe he was kind of he was the bad guy. I mean, of course, because he's on the other side. Season 1, he's on the other side of the Sandpiper case from Jimmy and Chuck. And at that point, Jimmy didn't know that Chuck was more of an enemy to him than any of these other lawyers.
Wait, reassigned.
Oh, and they're going to want these.
Aesthetically, looking at Kim, I could speak for her hair and wardrobe and myself. We had so much fun on this episode because she had so many different looks. It was really kind of good to go out of the box with her, to see her like this, her in the apartment. It was really cool to do that.
It's definitely an event seeing her hair down.
Yes, it is.
Ooh.
It's funny how important that ponytail and all her look has become kind of iconic. We just had the first Kim Wexler bobblehead just showed up, and it's kind of a thrill to see the ponytail live and in plastic.
Is it bobble?
It is a bobble. It's a bobble, and in fact, there's also a wonderful Hector Salamanca bobblehead, and when you press the bell, it rings. It's just really. Probably by the time you're hearing this, they're all sold out. At least I hope not. But I hope not.
I need that Kim bobble. I have to have that.
Oh, yeah. We got to make that happen.
Here's one one of my favorite guys to work with is Mark Margolis. He's just such a character.
Sure
Such
is.
a true, he just conveys so much. Just sitting there with these faces that he makes are fantastic. And this scene has a callback to my very first Breaking Bad episode, which is at the very end of the scene. Lalo whispers in Tio's ear, "La familia es todo," which is in the teaser of Breaking Bad 307. The very young cousins. Tio dunks one of the cousins' heads into to an ice chest of beer and is going to drown him, and then is to teach him a lesson that family is all. That's the Salamanca parenting style.
Yeah, I wonder what their coat of arms looks like.
That was your first episode, Tom?
Yes.
Episode 307 of Breaking Bad was your first one? Oh my God.
That's right.
That's insane.
Yeah, I was quite irritated.
And then coming up here, I wish I had hopes that this would be more of a meme. This shot with Hector with his birthday hat on. I thought this would catch on more because
this was my favorite. Oh my! I laughed so hard when I read
Hector
this part.
Salamanca in hell right now.
Oh yeah.
I love this scene so much.
So good. So funny.
Here we are with Malo and
Fantastic
Nacho. And
Michael Mando.
Michael Mando, and this is the very first scene we shot of the episode. After all you guys came back from the desert.
Oh yeah.
And when we were organizing what to shoot when, I was like, I really pushed to get this one first. I was like, a nice simple scene of Lalo walking out of the Casa Tranquila into the car and driving away.
And it's a new addition to the Casa Tranquila location combination, pastiche. I don't think we'd shot it at this exterior before.
Right, because there was some reason that we couldn't shoot at the original.
That's a good point.
And there we had established that Nacho's car has got a tracker on it, which is going to be very important in the end game when Mike comes racing to Kim's condo. Another actor I love working with is Peter DeSeth. He's just so damn funny in this.
In the jaws of victory. Ball in your hand at the goal line.
He and Bob play off each other so well. And Peter was in the second episode of Better Call Saul, and he had one line, admittedly one that he repeated many times, which is "petty with a prior." And I remember Bob said, "This guy's good. You should have him back." And we took Bob's advice, and I love ADA Oakley. I love Peter. I think he should have his own spinoff.
So good.
This is one of those reveals that was. Remember, the camera move wasn't quite working, and I was just like, just put a little more drag on the camera head. Yeah. It just weirdly it helped, but it wasn't a fast move over to the reveal. It was this, very funny reveal of Peter's face.
It's so funny when those things really work. You can just feel it, and we were all cracking up. I remember.
This is another absolute favorite scene. This episode's full of them, Tom. There's every scene comes, and I'm like, oh, that's my favorite. Oh wait, no, this is my favorite. Oh no, oh wait, the end of this episode is my favorite. No, I love this one. I don't know. This is so good. This scene.
And for some reason, we had taken the windshield off the front of the car to get the camera lenses in, and to manipulate the light. I guess Marshall, you had to cover it or something. But for some reason, the inside of this car was boiling hot, and the poor actors had to keep getting out and were just dripping with sweat. It was just
oh yeah,
yeah. I don't remember.
It was humid that day.
It was a hot day in August.
You can't tell. I mean, look at this. This looks so great.
It was hard on Jonathan. I mean, I got to say, it was really hot. As I said, we had an air conditioning pumping in. I think we accidentally, for one of the shots, forgot to turn the air conditioner off. I remember it was a sound issue. Our poor sound mixers had to smooth over the scene a little bit because we were using one of the shots with an air conditioner blowing into the back seat of the car.
It was them or it was us, cut and dried.
I love these beats, and they don't come that often when Mike has a philosophical thing to say, and you start getting he gives a little bit of advice. And this reminds me of another one, which was also yours, Tom, which is when he tells Price about the distinction between criminals and non-criminals and good people and bad people. And that's it's just those are always very special scenes for me because Mike's very reluctant to get so specific and be kind of get down to it. It's really nice.
This is a big one for Jimmy McGill and the evolution of Saul Goodman is how do you deal with death, and not just death. It is horrifying murder. I mean, blood splattered all over your clothes. I mean, Mike is going to be, the Mike Ehrmantraut of Breaking Bad is going to be much deadlier and a harder man. So he's also evolving, but he's been through it with getting the revenge killings for his son and all that. He's learned how to compartmentalize it.
But it's also, it's not just what Jimmy went through. It's also the fact that he's helping Lalo, who is clearly guilty of this horrible, horrible crime, and those choices that he's making. There's just so much going through Jimmy's head at this point. And the way you guys told the story and shot it, and it's so effective. It's just wonderful.
I love that cut across the line there, Tom. So nice because they get so much darker when the scene turns. It's really.
Somehow when you get to this part of Mike's explanation, doing those French overs and being sort of inside the car and just making it more intimate has helped convey this. And then this beat here where Jimmy says, the billion people in the world, and I can only talk to you. This is very much inspired by a scene in Taxi Driver where Peter Boyle and Robert De Niro are on the street talking to each other, and Peter Boyle as the wizard is trying to give his life philosophy, and he's it's just not sinking in with Travis Bickle, who ultimately says that's just about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life after this guy's trying to give him some advice. And so another homage to another great film, Taxi Driver.
Yeah, maybe there's more in common between Travis Bickle and Jimmy McGill than we thought.
Look where we are. Back in the belly of the beast.
That's right. We got this as the second, not the second shot of the episode, but the day when we were shooting the sun and Jimmy raising the phone up into the sun. We had a ladder pod right next to where we were shooting, so we could put the camera up and get that shot looking down at the road there.
The well.
And you guys actually had 2 of these wells, is that right?
Yeah, thanks, Vince Gilligan. For some reason he decided that when he was looking north, when you turn the camera around, there were too many trees or something, so they built a second well like 400 feet away or something like that.
It was trucks, I think. It was the trucks were all in the middle.
I don't know. For some reason, whenever we looked one direction, we had to use one well. You're looking at Lalo here was one location. And then when we turn around on Nacho the other way, it was back at the first well. So there was a lot of jumping back and forth.
You can never have too many wells, Tom. It's also an interesting thing, Marshall, that you chose, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more when we do the commentary track for the previous episode, but the color is different in this location. It's different in Albuquerque, and it's different in Mexico. This is sort of, is that right? I've forgotten. Is this sort of an in-between look?
It is. I guess I always, there was so many conversations on the internet about, how as you went over the border, everything got warm. So it felt like it would be fun to find an in-between that was right at the border. So yeah, we kind of leaned into it a little bit so that it had that feeling.
What are we looking for?
This scene is what makes part of what makes Lalo so fun is that he's Detective Lalo here. He's very smart.
There's a really wonderful cue from Dave Porter here too. Just have to shout out to how brilliant he is, because this cue is this is Lalo detective music to accompany Lalo the detective.
And also one of my favorite stunts too. It's just so simple, but my god, it is so badass. It is just so cool.
Awesome. He had one of Al Goto's finds. He got a fellow who looked a lot like Tony Dalton, a fellow by the name of Gabe Nunez, who watched Tony walk up to the edge of this cliff and watched how he stood and how he moved, and he just copied his manners exactly. So yeah, when we this was shot in Bagman 508, the car was down, and Al measured how big the jump was, and it was 10 feet, 12 feet, or whatever it was. And then between episodes, they had to remove the car because there were a lot of time shooting between episodes, so we just couldn't leave a car out on this location. So we come back to shoot for 509, and it had rained and apparently swept a lot of the dirt away, so the jump was about 10 feet bigger than originally planned. So we're only prepared, for a guy to do an actual real stunt. So all we had was a little bit of padding on the bottom of the Esteem, and Gabe just was like, yeah, I can do it. And it was, think about jumping down from somewhere, then adding 10 extra feet. How scary that must be.
That's incredible.
He just walked up there and did it.
Not to mention it's not a flat surface.
I remember I was having a bad day. A few days after this, I was in Albuquerque, and Princess Nash, our producer, said, come over here, look at this. And she showed me the stunt, and my bad day brightened considerably at that point. I was really happy. It's just because it looks so effortless.
Watching Princess watch dailies was a highlight of the season. Like, they would delight her so. They'd be on all the time, and they would delight her so. And she would insist on sharing it with anybody who would come in there and look. It was awesome.
It's important to remember it's a show and it's fun. We should be having fun, because if you can't have fun doing this, I don't know why you're doing it, because it could be somewhat hard work. But it really, putting on a show is a great thing to do, and it's fun and it's a delight, and you should have some pleasure in it. And I love that about Princess, that she brings a joy to it. And you can forget about the joy a little too easily.
Yeah, it's absolutely the best for me. It's the best job in the world ever. I would just feel incredibly lucky to get to do any of this nonsense. It's just so silly. You sit and think about what we do. It's just so silly, but it's just great fun. This is we've started our epic final act here. One of our longer, it's like 17 minutes this act, I feel like. And we want it to be one.
Yeah, it's very long.
Well, and speaking of Dave Porter, yeah, he's going to have one of our longer musical cues, which I feel like was like an 8-minute cue coming up when Lalo's sitting on the couch. Just fantastic, just helps the scene tremendously.
Yeah, this is almost 17 minutes. Yeah, this act.
And it's a very tricky thing to come in the middle of a scene like that. And Dave just hit it just perfectly, because you've already had like 6 minutes of talking before Dave comes in.
How about we get some food together?
And Peter, I feel like we barely even gave a note on this cue, right? I think
you're right.
There was like one note.
Yeah, was it just the adjustment of the start mark or something?
I think so, because of how long it was, and how a lot of us had quite a bit of trepidation of putting music in here in the first place, because the scene is so incredibly tense and suspenseful without it. And we, as a general rule, everyone probably pretty much knows this by now, we tend to not, you know, if in doubt, we don't put music in. And so then for this piece to come in and just do exactly the right amount of work, it was chilling to watch it the first time, I remember.
This act was amazing to watch. I remember the first cut, and one of the things I was disappointed by in Albuquerque, I was prepping the next episode, and I wasn't able to be on set for your rehearsal because I believe you guys got a chance to rehearse even before shoot day. Is that right, Tom?
That's right. I believe we had access to the stage on a weekend. I think, and Bob and Ray and Tony were gracious enough to come in to the studio and just walk through it and figure out where to stand and what to do. And all the stuff that you're seeing Ray do with props. I mean, that was just, I mean, she had to, it just as a viewer, it seems simple. So you pull out a couple of plates and make food, but it's very specific to do with your lines of dialogue and the action and make it look completely natural. Because, so yeah, these guys put in a tremendous amount of work. And this is one of my favorite things of the episode. Bob, Jimmy McGill, throughout the history of the show, is always repeating things that other people say, and here he's trying his best to repeat Mike's advice to him, and he just bungles it about the Bad Choice Road.
He just doesn't have the gravitas.
And that the scene of the two walking through the apartment, we had wanted them to, Kim to walk through and turn on lights, and anybody watching the show carefully is going to notice a continuity error, that there's a light switch on the wall where there wasn't one during the history of the show, because I needed Ray to turn on some lights. So we stuck a fake light switch on the wall, and which cued Marshall's crew to flick on some lamps as they were going through.
This set in general, I think if people looked really closely, they would see differences, because there's the size of the rooms changed a little bit from season to season. It's just
we added a bathroom.
So far we've gotten away with it.
Yes, we played around with the balcony.
Yeah, the dreaded balconies.
And this scene is a great. I mean, Marshall is going to speak to this. This is because I don't even think you told me while we were shooting this what you had done. When they're sitting on the couch, you had just raised the lamp on the side of the couch up to cast a shadow across Lalo's face in a certain way. Instead, it just made him more menacing.
Yeah,
it's a very subtle thing, but it works like it's amazing.
When we watched the rehearsal again with the lights on, and I realized it was very close, so we actually Steve changed it out to a clear bulb so it had a more defined shadow, and then we raised it up just a couple inches, and it just made all the difference.
And if you're really looking at the lamp, you might notice it's higher than it is, but it's a couple inches. It shouldn't make that big a deal, but it's just.
If you were looking at the lamp and not watching Tony Dalton, there's something wrong with you.
There is something wrong with that. That table next to the couch is just a little higher than it usually is.
I'm always worried about that fish, because there's a rule in motion pictures and television that if you have a fish tank, eventually it's going to fall over or get shattered. And I'm so glad that hasn't happened yet.
So far, we got one more season, Peter.
That's true. I know.
Well, I got to say, this set works so well too. It really does. It's gotten very fond. Grown very fond of it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. For all kinds of reasons that I can't say.
We spend a lot of time here. Yeah, this is like I said. We're just this act alone. We're spending 17 minutes here. That's a lot. It's one of those. When you write it on the page, you're like, oh my god, this is a long scene. This is how are we gonna do this? Is this gonna pay off? And then we watch the rehearsal, and it just kind of held my breath the whole time. These guys just made it so good. I mean, just Tony. It's the way he questions Bob here. Tell me again. It just
that horrible thing where you don't say anything. You just let the person keep talking and dig themselves deeper and deeper into a hole.
driving back.
And I think Tom will never take credit himself, but the way I remember it, and I don't like quoting out who said what in the writers' room, but I'm pretty sure that we were starting to work on this episode, and Tom said, "What if Lalo sees Jimmy's car with the bullet holes in it?" This whole episode, well, the whole end of this episode, really all flowed out of that idea, and it just shows you, we can put we can think as far ahead as we want, talking about what's going to happen at the end of the season when we're working on the beginning of the season, but there's really no substitute for going moment by moment and trying to figure out what's going on with these characters, what information do they have, what are they thinking, what do they want, and who are they in their innermost selves. This scene's really a reward for all that.
And we have all of our writing staff in a room just coming up with ideas and just trying to construct this thing so we can get to this moment. And like I said earlier, we have established that Lalo's car has a tracker on it, which gets Mike into the scene with a sniper scope, and then we have Kim finding the mug with the bullet hole in it, which lets her know that Jimmy is in fact keeping a secret, a very dangerous secret, apparently, now that Lalo's here, which gives her some of the ammunition to stand up to Lalo in the end of the scene the way she does. And it really culminates in one of my favorite Ray Seehorn moments, where she just lays into Lalo Salamanca.
Looking for here, but there you go.
There you see that what we were talking about before with the practical light on Tony, and it is remarkable.
And I feel like the only thing I said to Marshall for the scene was that I really wanted to shoot with longer lenses so that everything felt a little more trapped for the characters when they're looking at each other, and that's what we did.
Yeah, right. Thin up the focal plane a little bit and isolate them. Yeah, it's nice.
Watching the scene, it's so awesome being there watching this. I mean, it never gets old, no matter how many times you do it. It's so fascinating. But then you come home and then you watch it with your family when it airs. My family was on the edge of their seats. This scene just blew them away. First of all, they're fans of the show, but other than that, so watching people watch the scene that we did, that's pretty cool too. It really was.
Yeah.
And about 10 minutes later,
my car's engine went. I tried to fix it, but it was overheated or something.
Marshall, you should talk about that shot of Mike on the roof, that side shot, because we were going to do it all green screen. This shot facing Mike is a green screen.
Yeah.
But that shot on the side.
Well, we had the twinkle lights behind him,
right.
To be out of focus. But what always drove me crazy about those twinkle lights is that they're just too consistent. So I got, in a scramble, I got the effects guys to bring in a couple of sterno cans to have heat in between us and those twinkle lights, which just gives them a little bit of life and pushes them so far away.
I never would have thought of that. I'd never seen it done before. It was when you did that, I was like, oh my God, that's just genius. I love it.
I've been holding on to it for a long time for that opportunity. It was a lot of fun to do.
So Jonathan Banks, for that scene with the sniper rifle, was shot on a stage. As we said, the side shot is against the twinkle lights, and the shot where we're looking directly at him is a green screen. We shot, when we were actually on location, we shot a plate of the, I think that's the 40 freeway running behind him, which you don't even really see. We use such a low lens to shoot that plate.
You don't think so? Well, I mean, you either did
And
or you
also another thing to mention is the staging of this is so specific, because you have to have the actors facing the window or viewable from Banks's perspective, and just the way you did this is so artful and it feels so real. But when we cut to Mike's perspective, you can see he's thinking, should I take a shot? And
right.
Where is my shot?
And that's really where the idea of Lalo fucking with the fish came in, because it was just like it gets him in the perfect position for Mike And then when Ray confronts Lalo, it's just that's when we were doing the staging. I kind of let the actors do their thing, but I told Ray and Tony that ultimately I need this end position, and they worked out. We all worked out how to get there, and it just you want to make it look as natural as possible without making it look forced.
And it does too. I mean, how long is this scene again?
It is like 15 minutes. Like from the inside part is probably 15.
To make that look natural is just so good.
And we should also say that most contemporary television shows and even movie scenes are probably more like a page and a half or 2 pages. So just a couple of minutes long, most scenes. And so it's kind of a daring tour de force to pull off a scene that runs this long and is this riveting.
Yeah, I've never written plays, but with this scene and the scene between Jimmy and Chuck, where Chuck says you're a chimp with a machine gun, is the closest I've gotten to writing like little one-act plays here, where it's all just on one set, one location. This and to run for so long.
Where the stakes are so high, it's just magnetic.
And again, Ray is so. I mean, these guys. You can't say enough about them putting in their homework and studying this and figuring out where the highs and lows are.
And no one you can trust, leave him out of it.
And poor Jimmy's got nothing left to give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was gonna break. That was an important part. Is that Kim had to sense when Jimmy was gonna break and tell the truth. And knowing that was not a good idea, she had to come in and step in and use her legal expertise to come and argue Jimmy's point for him, because he was out of gas after everything he went through in the desert. Saul Goodman had nothing left in the tank, and again, I can't say enough about Ray. At the end of the scene, she added this moment where she's just holding her breath, and when Lalo closes the door, she releases, and she's shaking from nervousness. It's just such a beautiful thing she was able to pull off as an actress.
It's a big, big scene. And I remember in the editing room, we kept on talking about whether we could end the episode right here. But we needed what came next for the next episode to make sense, because that would have been also a wonderful place to end an episode, just on that sigh that Ray gives there. But this is also very important.
Yeah, it helped us propel us into the next episode. We cut one line to make it a little more mysterious, because I think in the script he specifically said you're going to go down and meet the bosses or something like that, and it was just we just lifted it right out, and it made you think, oh, what is Nacho in for? So when we run into Peter's great finale episode, and Peter and Ariel Levine's great finale, that we don't know what we're in for when we start that episode.
And Lalo doesn't seem like someone who gives extraneous information either.
Right.
That's true. That's true. We've all worked for bosses like that.
And this the location, another one, our crew running around at 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m., moving cranes and running around like crazy to get these shots of looking straight down at Nacho's car and over the roof. I can't say enough about this crew. It's so fantastic.
They are incredible. I love that location too. It always photographs so well too. It's got so many layers and different things going on. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent episode.
What an amazing episode.
All right, that was episode 509.
Nicely done, Tom.
Everyone, great job.
Woohoo, yay, Tom.
Beautiful work. Very proud to be a part of this one.